What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another FPL video on Fantasy Football Scout. Lots to discuss today after last night's breaking news. We now have double game weeks, obviously, in 24 and 25, so that is going to probably dictate our transfers going forward, at least for the next couple of weeks. And obviously, I'm joined by Gianni, who's going to talk us through how he is managing that. How are you feeling?
Yeah, not too bad. Not the best game week for me, but I'm looking forward to navigating these doubles. And when we get these doubles and sort of a spanner in the works with ones we weren't quite expecting, like the game week 25 one, and then we're still expecting a big one in 26, and obviously a few playing twice in 24, it just makes it more exciting, doesn't it? It's a very fun game when these things happen.
Yeah, and I think the Burnley one was probably almost the most interesting one. We knew that Leeds and we knew they were all going to be rearranged, but Leeds versus Southampton, there was lots of talk it could just go in 26. Obviously, that's now gone a week
Yeah.
earlier, which in some ways is good, especially if you've got your wild card and stuff left. There's probably different ways you can manage that. And yeah, the Burnley one in 24, I don't think anyone saw that, so that's kind of now Nick Pope central. I've seen his name mentioned so many times. We'll obviously talk about transfers and stuff in just a sec. Let's go on to game week 22 first, really quickly. So 67 points. You were kind of. I feel like the only thing that went wrong for you is the same for me, Captain Blank, and the only difference to you and a lot of teams is a lot of people had that big defender like Wan-Bissaka or Justin this week. Otherwise, everyone else pretty
Yeah.
much performed, didn't they?
Yeah, I guess I didn't have the Wan-Bissaka, Justin, or say the Souček. So those three all getting double figures, it hinders me a little bit. And then captaincy, yeah, I mean, look, I was never considering Bruno, so I can't be disappointed with that. I was between Cancelo and obviously Salah. It's just not been working out, has it? Captaincy going for the popular captain pick the last sort of 4 weeks hasn't paid off at all. Salah's blanked 7 in 8 now. Yeah, it's painful when you don't get the right captaincy pick and you see so many did, and so many of course still had Bruno. And fair play to those that did. It wasn't one I was looking at. So yeah, other than that, I got consistent returns from the likes of Antonio and Bamford that delivering. I'm really happy I'm on Gundogan. Bringing Grealish in was still a good shout. He's getting a lot of sort of 6-7 point returns, Grealish at the moment. Incredibly consistent, and that's something he's not been in years gone by. So in terms of the shape of my team and the way my players are playing, I am relatively happy, and the makeup of my squad is also good. I'm well prepped for the doubles, so despite the red arrow and the rank, I'm looking forward, and I'm quite positive about the next few weeks.
Yeah, and you've got all your chips left, actually, haven't you? You've got. I said, yeah, you've got
Yeah,
apart from triple captain, you've got
other
bench.
than triple captain.
Yeah, bench
Yeah.
boost, free hit, and wild card. So let's look at next week. I guess first question before we get into specific players and which double game weekers you're targeting. Has this announcement changed your thoughts on when you might wild card?
Yeah, I don't think it has. I mean, potentially these announcements make that earlier wild card, say in a game week 24 or 25, a little bit more of an option. One thing I'm still set on is a bench boost in 26. The new fixtures that came that we thought were going to be in 26, like potentially a Leeds double or an extra that Southampton fixture being moved, maybe hinders the bench boost a little bit, but I'm still set, and we'll know way more after the FA Cup midweek next week. I think I'm still set for a pretty useful game week 26 bench boost where I'll probably only have 2 or 3 players playing in a single. The rest could all have doubles without the need to wildcard. It means I need to transfer in a second goalkeeper. It means I need to upgrade Mitchell, which I'm planning on doing anyway. So I think the plan is still to bench boost in 26 and potentially not need to wildcard before then. I could look to wildcard either before the blank in 29 or after the blank in 29. And I've still got my free hit, which again, I could use in 29 or I could dead end my team. So I'm leaving it really flexible until we know more in the FA Cup. One thing I do quite like the idea of, if the blank in 29 is only 2 or 3 fixtures and they're not obvious fixtures for a free hit, i.e. it's not a really good team versus a really rubbish team, and it's hard to sort of see the upside there. A little bit like Game Week 18, the fixtures for me, I just didn't fall in love with them for a free hit, and I'm glad I didn't use it. And for those that didn't, everyone got the same sort of scores, sort of high 40s that week, whether you used it or not. And I think we could see similar in 29, which makes me want to use the free hit later in the season on a double game week. Perhaps it's a small double, but I stock up on those teams that are playing twice, which might go a little bit against the template because by then everyone would have used their chips. So I'm leaving it really open. And I can't see myself using too many in the next 4 or 5 weeks. I mean, bench boost is the one I'm pretty convinced on. I want to get that out of the way.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see if you come forward for the wild card. Because I haven't got it, I haven't given it a huge amount of thought. But I kind of feel like you could load up on Everton, Burnley this week, and then wild card out of it. The only thing is, I guess managing Leeds and Southampton is not necessarily ideal because Leeds won't double now in 26. If you're carrying 3 of those players, maybe that hurts the bench boost a little bit. So, yeah, I think next week will be the kind of decider, I guess, because we'll know the 29 and 26 fixtures, which will be massively helpful. Yeah. And with the free hit, I've kind of looked at that as well, because in game week 33, Spurs and City will both blank. So if you're still holding kind of 5 to 6 City Spurs players, that could be another week to use a free hit when all other teams play. So there is, there's no need to get pigeonholed into a week just yet. Okay, we'll come on to this week then. So let's just start off with transfer straight away. Potentially, if Wood is fit, you have him for the double. You've obviously got the 3-Man City like most of us do have. So no other Burnley players and no Fulham and no Everton either. So what are your initial thoughts on transfer this week? Have you got 1 or 2?
Yeah, I've only got 1 transfer, and I was set to sell Mitchell for either Alonso, bit of a punt, after he started last night, or a Luke Shaw. But with those fixtures that came out yesterday, changes my thinking. Rather than going for a Chelsea or United defender, whilst they've got good fixtures and good form, I'm looking at Burnley, and they've got a brilliant double, and they've also got really nice fixtures around the double. Burnley for the next 4 or 5 look like a set. And certainly for defenders, Burnley don't score many goals. They've obviously already got Chris Wood. So I'd be looking at Ben Mee. So Mitchell out for me is a move that I'm looking to make this week. I mean, I could wait for next week. It's not urgent that I make a transfer this week. But if I was to buy Mee, I feel like he'd probably come into my 11 and I'd drop John Stones down to the bench. Therefore, it seems like it's a move worth taking. I don't expect Liverpool to score more than 1 or 2 goals. But you could see Salah popping up with a goal. Therefore, the double Man City clean sheet wipeout won't be fun. But at the same time, you wouldn't be surprised with a 0-0 in that game. Pep struggled at Anfield too. But I think Mee just about edges Stones this week. Therefore, it makes sense to bring him in. And then next week, I can bring in an Everton player. I could bring in DCL. It would mean selling Antonio, which I'm not a fan of. But maybe I do it and I bring Antonio back in 4 or 5 weeks. I mean, West Ham fixtures do turn. They'll have a hard double in 26 if they get one. It is Sheffield United next week, but then it turns a little bit more difficult. And again, I could ignore DCL and go Luca Dean. There's a big upside with Luca Dean as a defender because he gets forward because of his delivery. And again, I could sell Matt Target for Dean. And then it gives me an extra Villa spot for maybe a Watkins come the double. When they get one in 26. So I'm open, but my moves this week and next are definitely for double game weekers in 24, 25.
Yeah, I like I think everyone's going for Burnley defence now. I mean, we probably should have been looking at it anyway. Now I've looked at the fixtures; they were quite good anyway. Brighton, I can't remember which one. I think it was the Crystal Palace game, and then West Brom. But obviously, they've had that Fulham game added in as well. And I think it almost gets to the point now where you kind of need to cover it because everyone's going to go for Pope and or a Burnley defender. I'm sure there's going to be quite a few people out there doubling up, and I'm kind of doing the same with the City defence. I'm hedging my bets a bit too and looking to bench John Stones. I'm just not quite sure how that game will go. I was speaking to Mark last night about it, and I'm the same. I try not to sit on the fence. So you could see a 0-0. You could see City keeping a clean sheet, but it's also just one of those games where will Klopp just say, look, we just have to go for it. We have to get the win. Because if they lose, then is it game over? It possibly is, right? So, they're going to have to go for it. One other player this week is Son. We should definitely talk about. West Brom at home looks like a great fixture on paper. Arguably the best fixture in FPL right now is West Brom at home. But he's blanked. I think he's only scored once in the last 6 or 7 now. So he really is not playing or not getting the points at least right now. And Spurs for the last 2 games have not looked good without Kane. They've had difficult fixtures: Chelsea, Brighton, and obviously a half against Liverpool. What's your thoughts with Son right now? Are you worried about him?
Yeah, I really am. I'm not looking to sell because of his ownership scares me and money's not an issue for me. But the captaincy thing on Son goes out the window until Kane's back, as far as I'm concerned. Last night against Chelsea, his first touch in the box came in the 87th minute.
It's mad.
That's not what you want. Yeah, he looked lost. He's lost without Kane. It's a completely different system when he plays Vinicius up front as well, because that's not the position Kane has been playing. Kane drops deep and Son's been playing as the 9. He's got no creativity. Bringing Ndombele off is a weird one. He's the only creative player in that Spurs 11. And then Ndombele's way too deep. He needs to be pushed up. Dele needs to come in.
Yeah,
Without
Dele Alli,
Kane,
where is he?
these flair players are needed. Yeah, I mean, Lo Celso's injured, but Dele, Lo Celso, and Ndombele are the 3 creative players outside of Kane, and none of them were on the pitch with 20 minutes to go last night. Look, I'm a Chelsea fan, so I was very happy with Son's blank, but it put me off the West Brom fixture. My armband's been on Son all week. I needed one of 2 things to happen for me to keep it on Son. I needed to see a very good Spurs performance. Not just Son performance, but Spurs performance, or I needed to see news that Harry Kane was going to play against West Brom. Neither of those things look likely to happen. And in the reverse fixture, 86th minute, Harry Kane scored the flick-on header in a 1-0 win. West Brom were good against Spurs. They'll play a low block. Son struggles against some of those low block teams. There won't be much space. Won't be much creativity. I could see Spurs struggling in this fixture. I know Big Sam's teams have been leaking goals, which is very unlike him, but every week that goes by, I can almost guarantee that West Brom defence will start improving because it's Big Sam, it's time on the training ground, and that is all he needs. Look, I think West Brom are shooing to go down. They look lost, but we will see a tighter West Brom in the coming weeks because that is what Big Sam does. And he's just not had the time on the training ground with all the fixtures, but that will come. Whether it comes against Spurs, I'm not so sure, but they've looked so goal shy. You wouldn't be surprised to see West Brom keep a clean sheet. I'm keeping Son.
Clean sheet,
but there's
wow.
no way I'm captaining him.
Yeah,
honestly, Spurs are so lost. I mean, their expected goals in the last 3 games, I don't think they've hit I think they're on 0.8 or something for 3 games. It's ridiculous.
It's really bad. And it feels like he's just put Vinicius in last night and basically hasn't changed the system at all. It's almost like he has to come in and play like Kane, and that's just not going to happen. Like, it's just mad. It was. And the thing is, what was annoying me watching it was there was a bit of space in behind Chelsea last night a few times, and there's just who is going to play that ball. And seeing Son out wide on the left so often is just, for me, like, he is there. Even with Kane, you could argue he is their best forward, like, to play in like a number 9 position. Even with Kane there, I know Kane does a different role now, but if you were putting either of those 2 in a team as a number 9, like a different team, I think a lot of teams would choose Son ahead of Kane. Right? His finishing is great. He's got pace. He get in behind. He can do pretty much everything. And he's still out on that left side with Vinicius going through the middle and just no one to give him the ball. It's madness. And I got to be honest, I was the same as you. I was stuck on Son, and I said to myself, no matter what happens in this Chelsea game, I'm still captaining him. But I just don't know. But I agree, like, that West Brom fixture looks so good on paper, but they have done okay a few times against the big teams. Like, they have been playing a bit more recently, which hasn't helped them. They're not going to do that against Spurs, are they? Because they'll just get ripped apart, probably. So, yeah, no, fair enough. The question is, though, your captaincy's on Bamford. Now, a lot of people, when they're not captaining Son this week, are going Antonio Fernandes. What's making you think about Bamford?
You know what? In terms of differential, I'm completely 50-50 torn on Bamford or Antonio. But I know it won't be captain one vice the other. Bruno is a massive part of my thinking. So if you like, it's a 3-way split between Bruno, Antonio, and Bamford. And to be completely honest, Andy, because the game weeks have been coming thick and fast, I've not really delved into it. I want to see some of those defensive numbers for Everton, Fulham, Palace, the 3 opponents for these guys. And it'll be looking at those numbers on the Fantasy Football Scout members area, looking at some of their patterns of play, where they can see goals, where they can see chances, and then trying to work out if I go Bamford, Antonio, and Fernandes. Fernandes will have obviously really high ownership, probably over 100% effective ownership this week. I think we'll see that with Bruno and probably Son. So it is a bit scary going against these guys, but I feel like this could be the week for differential. The template captaincy option for the last how many weeks has not been working. So look, we all had the Salah blank this week. Before that, we had the Bruno blank. I just feel like it's a really nice fixture for Bamford. One of his former teams, Palace. Bamford does do better away from home, I think. And he's obviously at home on the Monday night. And then again, Antonio's underlyings are just brilliant. And he faces Fulham that haven't looked the best at the back. So I like those 2 explosive forwards. But at the same time, I also like United off the back of a 9-0 victory. Well, I mean, if you don't go Son, Andy, presumably you're going Bruno.
I'm probably going to go Antonio if I don't go for Son. I just,
Okay.
I don't know. Like, part of me thinks I should just go for Fernandes. Like, the thing is, he hasn't. Like, that haul was kind of ridiculous because it was against 9 men, right? So
Yeah.
no, I don't even feel bad about not captaining because I don't think he got. I could be wrong. I should have really checked this because I've said it like quite a few times on videos this week, but I don't think he got any returns until Southampton were down to 9. It was only after that
Okay.
he got anything. Obviously, the penalty is the penalty hasn't been overturned, but the red card's been overturned, which kind of tells you that he didn't touch Martial, therefore it shouldn't have been a penalty at the time. So I think he got a bit fortunate to get 17 points. And if you look at the points before that, he hasn't been scoring that well. But over the season, he's played 22 games and got 9 double-digit hauls. That's ridiculous. And
What do you
3 of them
make
are
of
17
Pogba though?
points.
Because Pogba wasn't in the team. Pogba wasn't in the team. So
Yeah, I think
Pogba's going to come back in. And is that a coincidence that Bruno's doesn't perform in terms of FPL points when Pogba's on the pitch? Is it a big enough sample size? Because he's not been. You look at when Pogba and Bruno start together, and Bruno's FPL returns are 50% less.
Yeah, I think the reason Pogba didn't play is just because obviously Southampton are just so good at winning the ball back and so kind of industrious at running around that it just does them a disservice. But you know what I mean? They're straight away pressing to get the ball back, and therefore McTominay and Fred was probably the right call. Everton don't really have that in their midfield. They're not as mobile, and so Pogba probably will come back in. It is a small sample size, and I don't really like making too many decisions based on that. But I do think there probably is something in it because ultimately, when Fernandes is there and Fred and McTominay are playing, Fernandes is the one who has to make everything work. When Pogba's in there, someone else can make that pass, someone else can get in the box, and it just takes a bit of the load off of him. So I don't think he suddenly becomes a bad option. And he did score twice against Everton in the reverse fixture. But Pogba wasn't playing back then, I don't believe. So I think there's possibly something in it, but I don't think it suddenly makes Fernandes a bad option. To be honest, he hasn't scored an open play goal for like 7 or 8 weeks anyway, and he's still going to be on penalties when Pogba's off the pitch. When Pogba's on the pitch. So I do think he's a good option this week, and I do think Everton can be got at. I know their defence had kind of started to look a bit better, but Leeds got in so many times. And obviously that's just the way they play. But I think it's a good fixture for us. I really do.
And Newcastle the week before, we didn't expect Newcastle to go and turn up against Everton. Callum Wilson, 4 big chances in that match. So Everton haven't looked the best at the back. But you just think Ancelotti might be able to turn it on in a big game.
Maybe, possibly. I think it's a good game for Man United. Like if I had Rashford as well, I'd be quite happy. So I do think he's a good option for captaincy. It's a real tough one this week. I could talk for hours about Son and West Brom. I still want to go there, but the more and more I think about it, the more I talk to people about it, it gets more difficult. But also, it's part of me thinks it feels like now a bit of a differential, and it's West Brom at home. And it's not often you get a differential. I know he's not literally going to be a differential because he's so highly owned. But in terms of what the engaged managers are doing, you keep hearing them talk about Fernandes captain, now Antonio captain. He is probably going to be a bit more of a differential than he was. So, he's a tempter, but you're definitely not going there. Can't talk you into it at all, no?
No, I'm absolutely sold on the idea of Bruno or one of my 2 differentials up tops, not even considering Son. I'd say he's 4th ranked in my sort of head for captaincy this week.
Fair enough. I think, I think that's probably about it for this one because I think the team obviously with the bench probably picks itself. I do think there's a case to be made for potentially benching one of the City players depending on your bench, but probably not for target. Like I guess it's double City defense versus double Villa, and you're just backing the the City defense.
Villa, conceded a lot of chances against West Ham. A lot. We all saw Martinez make 5 saves in the first 20 minutes. For me, I'm very happy with single Villa defence at the moment. I'm keeping target long term, I think, because of the doubles they'll get, maybe 26, 27, 28. Therefore, it seems silly to sell him just now, but I think he's a bench option until a bench boost because I got Martinez. Chris Wood, if he starts against Brighton's not a bad fixture, but who comes out? Potentially Gundogan, but look, Gundogan's he's one of the informed players in the league right now, and he's integral to how City play. Benching Gundogan is very risky, especially if I'm benching Stones as well. I don't really want to bench 2 City assets in that fixture. I do think will come into the 11, and that's a transfer I'll likely make tonight. I think he's due a rise tonight. And obviously Pope went up last night as well out of nowhere. So yeah, Burnley coming in for sure.
Fair enough. Good stuff. So Burnley in, Ben Mee probably, if not another defender coming in, Stones bench, and then captain one off Bamford Antonio Fernandez. It'd be interesting to see where you go. I hate
Yeah.
captaincy decisions when like this because it feels like you can't get it right. It was the same last week. It was the same week before. There's just lots of options. Like sometimes it's nice just to have a Salah or a Fernandez against West Brom and you can just forget about it because you know you're going to captain them, even though it hasn't necessarily gone right. So yeah, we'll leave it there. Obviously, deadline is tomorrow. By the time this is going to go out on Friday, so deadline's tomorrow, and then we actually have a proper week until the next deadline. Obviously, there'll be FA Cup matches to keep an eye on, so we'll definitely be back next week as well. So thanks for joining me this morning.
Andy, I forgot to mention just very quickly, the one reason I'm looking at the differential captaincy is my mini leagues. I've got a lot of ground to make up, and all my mates in my mini league have got such a similar team. The differential captain is the bit that maybe just gives you the edge. My template rating has gone from, earlier this season, I was at 50% for a long time. Then I was in around 60, 70. I'm up to 80% template rating. So I'm sky high, which isn't great for someone with my rank. I need a few differentials. I'm not willing to sell a lot of those template players. So I feel like I have to go a little bit differential with some of those captaincy picks. And just feels like this is the one to do it because there isn't that obvious Bruno against Sheffield United or Salah against Brighton as we've had in the last couple of weeks. So yeah, that's why I'm thinking Antonio or Bamford. But yeah, we'll see. I'll be tweeting it, my decision tomorrow morning, no doubt.
Yeah, make sure to give Gianni a follow. We'll see who he goes for. Yeah, I think I get it. Like, I mean, differentials I always find difficult because I think sometimes we go differential just for the sake of it, and actually you find you fall further behind. But when it comes to a captaincy, when you already own all the other players anyway, I think the risk is a little bit more diminished. So, yeah, I like that option. Hopefully it pays off for you. We'll find out next week. If you have enjoyed the video, do give it a like. Hit subscribe if you're new around here. Gianni, I'll say goodbye.
Thank you, mate. Speak to you soon.
And good luck, everyone. We'll be back with this. Should go out before team news. If not, we'll have already had team news, and then we'll have Breakfast Club on Saturday. So make sure you check all that out, and we'll see you soon.